Okay, so we're going to do a quick tutorial on how to calculate your R value. That's your correlation coefficient, the least squares regression line. That's a line of best fit. That is a line that if you did a scatter plot, that line would go through the approximate middle of your data. And as well as we're going to show you how to do a scatter plot on your calculator and actually plot those things. All right, so the first thing we have to do is kind of get our data into the calculator. So I got my little t-chart here. This is our x value. This is our y value. So this is going to go in column A, and this is going to go in column B in my calculator that I can use to calculate that correlation coefficient and least squares regression line. So I come over to my calculator, and I am going to type in my data. So that was 19, 31, 34, 35, 39, 39, and 43. All right, so we got all 7 of them. Come back up to the top, and the other one was 920, 1500, 1310, 860, 1180, 940, and 1260. Alright, so make sure these things match, otherwise it's going to give you some errors. I come back to the top. A little trick for your calculator is if you label these columns A and B or whatever you want to label them, if you want to label them X and Y, whatever, it doesn't matter. It kind of makes things a little easier. Right now, I've got my data typed in, right? So you can see that 19, 31, 34, 920, 1500, 1310, and stuff right there. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate that correlation coefficient and the least squares regression line. To do that, we're going to go into Menu, Statistics, Stat Calculations. That did not work. Menu, Statistics, Stat Calculations, and Linear Regression. I'm going to do this in A plus BX form. Okay, and now here it's asking me for my X list and Y list, right? My X list is that A column, which I have labeled A. The Y list is the B column, which I have labeled B. Hit enter a couple times, and there's my linear regression. Now, right there is the form of our equation. Right, that's going to be that A plus BX right over here. So I'm doing this in the form A plus BX. Now, if I scroll down, there is my current A value. There is my current B value. So 930.02. And then we have a positive 6.08. And then X, right? That X just comes down. All right, so all I was doing is I was plugging the value into there and into there. Okay, now I need that R value over there. All right, so I'm going to come back over here, and I'm just going to scroll down a little bit further. Do not put in R squared. That's something else. All right, and so I got my R value is 0.199. Okay, so if I look at this, that's a pretty low number for R, so that is going to be a weak correlation. It is a positive correlation too. All right, and so now we want to go ahead and do our scatter plots. All right, so we're going to come back over here, and we're going to do our scatter plot. Now, to do a scatter plot right now, I have a spreadsheet for my document. So I'm going to add a page. So that's Control Doc to add a page up there. And I'm going to add a graph. Now, right now, it's asking me, notice it says F2. If I look up in F1, notice that is actually the equation for that least squares regression line. And if I want, I can go ahead and actually graph that. Right, just hit enter and it graphs it. But I want to do a scatter plot. To do that, I need to change how I'm entering this information here. I'm not entering a function. So I'm going to hit Menu, Graph Entry Edit, and then down to Scatter Plots. Right, and now it's asking me for an X and Y list. Again, that's that A and B column, and I've labeled them A and B. Right, and so just put your A and B, hit enter. Now you're wondering, nothing happened. Actually, what happened is it graphed it. It's just all my data is way out somewhere else. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to zoom in on that data. So Menu, Window Zoom, and Data. And notice, not only have I done the scatter plot, but I've also graphed that line of best fits through my data. And so that is how we do a calculation for the correlation coefficient, the least squares regression line. We've added our graph, done our scatter plot, and I've actually also plotted that least squares regression line. If I wanted, I could even take some of that stuff off too if I wanted to not show them. So if I go back to Graph Entry Edit and Function, right, I can even take off that line of best fit, and there's just the scatter plot. Okay, and there you go. That's it.